Several years ago, my role as a park ranger led me to the captivating landscapes of Nickerson State Park. If you have ever strolled through its enchanting grounds, you'd know it's a picturesque haven cradled in the embrace of Cape Cod's arm. Imagine serene kettle ponds, dense woods adorned with pine and oak trees, a setting that exudes tranquility and safety. Yet, let me share a tale of a night that defied the ordinary. As a park ranger, I developed a profound connection with the park, treating it as an extension of myself. Every trail, curve, and hidden nook where critters sought refuge during scorching afternoons became familiar. Routine tasks filled my days, like checking trails, repairing fences, guiding lost tourists, and occasionally intervening in rowdy gatherings. My nightly routine started with inspecting trails and searching for fallen trees or overnight damage. I had traversed those paths so often that I could navigate them with my eyes closed. Everything appeared normal during the day. No signs of disturbance, but as dusk descended, I embarked on my customary rounds, patrolling campgrounds and consoling campers unnerved by mysterious sounds in the woods. Usually it boiled down to raccoons or possums, creatures city dwellers weren't accustomed to. Foxes, with their scream resembling a distressed woman, often caused unnecessary panic. After dealing with mischievous teenagers attempting to feed raccoons, I headed towards one of the more secluded loops, farthest from the park entrance. Despite its isolation, the loop boasted its own tranquil kettle pond, making it my favorite spot, especially at night. However, the isolation could unnerve some. It was in this secluded area that the unusual incident unfolded. As I strolled, a putrid smell wafted through the air, a mix of musty, rotting wood and acrid sourness, thick and almost sticky. My gut twisted instantly, signaling something awry. Trusting my instincts in the wilderness honed over years, I pressed forward. The rustling leaves, typically comforting now, felt ominous. The crack of a twig made me startle, an occurrence I'd usually dismiss as a passing deer or squirrel. The night turned unusually dark, devouring the beam of my flashlight as I advanced, suppressing the unease in my stomach. Then a noise pierced the silence. A low guttural grunt echoed from somewhere off the path, its source elusive. I stood frozen, attempting to identify the creature responsible for such a sound. Nighttime sounds in the woods can distort, making a small animal sound like a formidable bear. However, this noise felt different, sending a shiver through me and triggering genuine fear for the first time in my career. Radioing base for assistance yielded no response. The oppressive atmosphere shattered with a piercing screech, a blend of a yell and a deep growl that resonated with unprecedented power. I sensed danger. Unlike any woodland encounter, a series of knocks against a nearby tree followed. Approaching cautiously, I aimed my flashlight into the darkness, revealing a massive creature nearly 9 feet tall. Despite the dim lighting, its imposing figure emerged, broad and muscular, with a prominent forehead, heavy jaw, jutting chin, and deep-set, unsettlingly intelligent eyes. The offensive odor intensified, engulfing me as I observed the creature's dark brown, almost black, matted and smooth hair. A shiver ran down my spine at the sight of its ape-like face. I grappled with the realization that dismissed myths might be more than mere stories. The creature huffed and vanished into the brush at the sound of my coworker's voice through the radio, leaving me petrified in the night. Finally responding to the radio, I downplayed the encounter, knowing how unbelievable it sounded. The rest of the night blurred into a surreal experience. Returning home, the haunting image of the creature lingered, making sleep an elusive idea. In the ensuing days, I continued my rounds, but torn between hoping and fearing another encounter with the creature, often labeled a Sasquatch. Yet it never reappeared, leaving me to wonder if it had merely passed through or if there were unexplored corners harboring such mysterious beings. In the aftermath, I reported no unusual incidents, logged out, and tried to resume normalcy. The lingering fear persisted, casting a shadow on my nightly patrols. Perhaps our beautiful world hides dark corners, uncharted realms inhabited by magnificent yet terrifying creatures. To those wandering the wilderness, remember, there's more mystery in the world than meets the eye. In the early 2000s, armed with a freshly acquired degree in environmental sciences, I devoted 3 years of my life working as a ranger for Montana state parks. During my final year, I opted for in-park housing, a decision that would drastically alter my perception of the wilderness. The sense of unease crept upon me gradually, an unfamiliar sensation in the usually tranquil woods that I patrolled. While the locale was somewhat secluded, I had become accustomed to such environments. Odd noises disrupted the usual symphony of nature, sounds that began as soft murmurs, escalating into frenzied bursts of agitation before subsiding once again. Sometimes a brief, spine-chilling scream would pierce the night. I rationalized these occurrences, attributing them to the wild inhabitants like raccoons, bobcats, or foxes. Yet an unsettling feeling lingered. The forest enveloping my cabin seemed to harbor an unspoken malevolence. It was an inexplicable discomfort, an eerie sense of being observed by unseen eyes. One stormy night, the thunder reverberated and keeping me awake. The accompanying lightning illuminated the surroundings, and at around 2 a.m, driven by restlessness, I rose from my bed to fetch water. The window above the sink granted me a view of my yard leading to the tree line. When the lightning struck again, I glimpsed an enigmatic figure just a few steps into my yard. Initially mistaking it for a bear, the revelation unfolded under the strobe of nature's flash. This creature stood on 2 legs, its canine-like hind legs adorned with distinctive hocks. Its face, directed towards my dwelling, revealed a dark fur, accompanied by a formidable mane encircling its neck. The creature's upper body boasted massive shoulders and disproportionately muscular arms, reminiscent of a seasoned bodybuilder. I awaited the next lightning strike for another glimpse, only to find the space empty. The apparition had vanished as swiftly as it appeared, leaving me shaken. From then on, my gun always became a constant companion within arm's reach. Conducting research on local fauna yielded no matches for the mysterious entity. Collaborating with colleagues, we scoured the vicinity without success. Weeks passed without incident until one night, while adjusting my satellite antenna, an eerie quietness enveloped the woods. With a flashlight in one hand and my trusted firearm in the other, I approached the satellite. Unusually silent, the woods betrayed the lively summer activity I had grown accustomed to. A snapped twig diverted my attention, and as I turned the flashlight towards the sound, I encountered a sight that would haunt me forever. 2 demonic glowing red eyes stared back at me, belonging to a creature with a head reminiscent of a nightmarish hybrid of a hyena. Its shaggy grayish-brown fur added to the horror, as its massive upper body, standing just inside the trees, created a chilling silhouette. Instinctively, I drew my pistol, grappling with the decision of a potentially lethal shot. The creature crouched at the edge of the woods and exuded a sinister aura. Despite being hunched, it easily reached 6 feet in height. My fight-or-flight reflexes took over and I retreated, maintaining eye contact, uncertain of my chances in a confrontation. I sprinted towards my cabin, not daring to glance back. Reporting the encounter, 2 rangers arrived the next day, yet our nocturnal search yielded no results. The memory of that night lingered and still haunting my dreams. Never again did I endure such an encounter, but the scars, both mental and emotional, persist. I refrain from dwelling on the past, yet the nightmares persist, a testament to the profound impact that mysterious night had on my psyche. The cabin, tainted by the unknown, remained a distant memory, and I moved forward, forever changed by the inexplicable horrors hidden within the depths of the wilderness. In the heart of Asheville, North Carolina, I found myself surrounded by the majestic beauty of nature on a bright and sunny day. The expansive sky cradled by ancient mountains made me ponder my place in the vastness of the world. Deciding it was the ideal weather for a mountain bike ride, I embraced the thrilling escapade that awaited me. Asheville's sprawling mountain ranges had always called out to me, and my love for adrenaline and mountain biking had been a steadfast companion over the years. The day unfolded like any other mountain biking journey. My senses were heightened as I maneuvered down one of my preferred trails, a picturesque path winding along the mountain's edge, adorned with dirt, rocks, and roots. The trail, a meticulously crafted single track, offered awe-inspiring views of the landscape. The scent of pine, the cool mountain breeze, and the sunlight filtering through the trees painted a paradise. Yet the idyllic atmosphere took an unexpected turn. Have you ever experienced that peculiar feeling when something just doesn't seem right? That's precisely what I felt. Pausing my ride to soak in the surrounding beauty and hydrate, I noticed the sun dipping low, casting its warm glow across the sky. Then it happened. A subtle but unsettling sensation crawled up my spine, an undercurrent of unease infiltrating the scene. I was about to continue when a rustling sound emerged from behind the tree line. The rustling evolved into a deliberate, disconcerting groan that echoed through the subdued forest. A distinct musky odor, unlike anything I had ever encountered, filled the air and inducing a nauseating reaction. Stepping back, I scanned the dimming woods for the source only to find nothing tangible, just a menacing outline lingering in my mind, a shadow fueled by fear and an inexplicable heaviness. The shadows seemed to come alive, materializing and vanishing, yet an undeniable presence gripped every fiber of my being. Straining my ears for familiar sounds, I encountered something entirely unfamiliar, an eerie laughter echoing through the woods. Unease swelled within me. I knew I wasn't alone, but identifying the unseen presence proved elusive. Instincts urged me to flee, yet curiosity held me in place. The unfolding events grew stranger by the moment. Determined to preserve my sanity, I chose to confront whatever lurked in the shadows. Standing tall, I called out, attempting to sound brave, but my voice bounced back. What was transpiring in the woods? Why did it feel like my life was on the brink of a profound change? Suddenly, a figure emerged from the forest and radiating an eerie aura filled with dread. Breath caught in my throat as I strained to discern the silhouette, a tall, unnaturally slender form with a fluid, twitching motion. The peculiar gait was both intriguing and terrifying. Squinting, I attempted to make sense of the figure, feeling like a deer caught in headlights. A sudden flash of golden light pierced the dusk, revealing eyes glowing vividly in gold, fixated on mine. Hanging in midair, they looked surreal, yet divulging nothing about the creature. A disconcerting mimicry of my own voice followed, an uncanny echo that sent shivers down my spine. The forest seemed to whisper back to me in my own voice. My blood ran cold at the sound. Acting on pure adrenaline, I swiftly grabbed my bike off the ground, mounted it, and pedaled away, the creature's gaze drilling into my back. Refusing to glance back, I focused on the trail ahead, relying on muscle memory to navigate the familiar terrain. Breaking out of the tree line and onto open ground as darkness descended, I didn't stop until the blood pounding in my ears faded, creating a comfortable distance from the eerie presence left behind. Reflecting on the encounter, my memories were filled with unease and unanswered questions. Was it a guardian of the mountains or a harbinger of more sinister intentions? Though physically unharmed, the lingering sensation persisted. Nights turned restless as the memory haunted my thoughts. Each subsequent mountain biking expedition carried the weight of an unseen gaze and peculiar sounds that echoed through the tranquil mountains. In the end, we are all wanderers, embarking on adventures to discover our true selves. As I pedal through the mountains, the soft rustling of leaves and mysterious sounds become impossible to ignore. For in these adventures, we hope to unravel the mysteries that shape our understanding of the world. This story happened during my tenure as a park ranger in the sprawling expanse of Congaree National Park in South Carolina. Congaree possesses a unique allure, characterized by its extensive, marshy, ancient forest that could evoke a sense of stepping into something enchanting and primal, even for the most seasoned outdoors enthusiasts. I firmly believe I held the most extraordinary office in the world during my time there. On a specific night, my duty entailed patrolling the area. A surge in incidents involving rule-breaking fishermen had kept us on edge that summer. Violations ranged from fishing without a license to exceeding catch limits, and it was my responsibility to monitor this unusual trend. The offenders seemed to favor the cover of darkness, prompting an increase in nighttime patrols. That night, as I navigated the Cedar Creek path, the moon's pale glimmer behind the clouds spared me from using a flashlight immediately. The atmosphere at night in the park was distinct. Owls and coyotes echoed in the distance, and the peculiar nightlife of the forest stirred with activity. The chorus of peeper frogs in the swamp painted a vibrant scene, although some might find it eerie. It resembled the soundtrack of a suspenseful film, if one viewed it that way. As I continued my rounds, a subtle sense of being observed halted me. Having spent numerous nights in the wilderness, I recognized when something felt awry. Initially dismissing it as part of the swamp's mystique, this sensation differed, an unusual stillness that didn't harmonize with the forest. Approaching one of the older, less explored corners of the park, an unfamiliar scent, distinct from the customary earthy aromas, reached me. A sulfuric smell wafted through the air, adding an unsettling layer to the night. My attention honed in on a figure around 5 feet tall, navigating the sawgrass with an odd swiftness. It was indistinct but moved on legs bent at peculiar angles, adding to the unease. The shadowy figure resembled a deer at first glance, but upon closer inspection, its skeletal form took on a nightmarish quality. Too large for a coyote and too peculiar for a bear. My instinct signaled alarm, yet an insatiable curiosity propelled me forward. I needed to unravel the mystery. Tracing its path, I reached a thicket of palmettos, and there it was, an entity beyond classification. Neither animal nor human, but an otherworldly being. Approximately 5 to 6 feet tall, with protrusions that I initially mistook for branches, but later discerned as wing-like extensions. These wings lacked feathers, resembling the membranous structure of bats. Mesmerized, I overlooked my own safety, the creature's head elongated like a horse's, with constantly shifting features, giving an impression of a shapeshifter. Its glowing yellow eyes met the beam of my flashlight. A long black tongue slithered out, tracing the contours of its face, and licked at the air like a snake. A bizarre combination of deer-like hair and scaly skin shimmering under the light covered its body. Stumbling backward and heart racing, I felt an inexplicable compulsion to stand my ground. The creature, with an unsettling gaze, spread its grotesque wings wide, emitting an ear-splitting shriek as it vanished into the night. I rushed back to the station disoriented, attempting to articulate the inexplicable encounter. In the ensuing days, my rounds became fraught with anxiety, and my once familiar surroundings taking on a sinister aura. The joy of working the night shift dissipated, and I sought refuge in my truck during those uneasy nights. Regardless of your belief in my account, I implore caution to those venturing into Congaree National Park, particularly after dark. It is an enchanting place, yet the woods harbor mysteries beyond our comprehension. Stay vigilant and safe out there. Allow me to recount an extraordinary episode from a couple of years ago set in the heart of Idaho during the fall. My family, deeply rooted in farming for generations, believed we had faced every challenge conceivable. From droughts to floods, pest invasions, and peculiar neighbors, our experience was vast. However, that particular year unfolded with a mystery that defied explanation and surpassed all expectations. The initial abnormal incident revolved around crops disappearing at an alarming rate, almost as if they were vanishing overnight. The progression was gradual but unsettling, a bushel of potatoes gone here, a few rows of corn completely missing there. The strangeness of it lay in the absence of any evidence. No bite marks, no footprints, no disturbances in the soil or weeds surrounding the crops. It was as if the very earth had absorbed them, erasing any trace. It was a puzzle we couldn't solve. While I was accustomed to strenuous labor and unconventional hours, this predicament had me working past midnight each night. My initial suspicion was a mischievous harvest time prank, perhaps perpetrated by local high school kids. To catch them red-handed, I decided to stake out my fields, choosing a vantage point atop a hill overlooking the property. Armed with a thermos filled with coffee and my trusty farmer's almanac for some light reading, I settled in for the long vigil. The sun had set, leaving behind a canvas of brilliant oranges and pinks in the darkening sky. The wind, weaving through the leaves, created a soothing symphony. For us, rural folks, such solitude was as familiar as an old boot. Perched on a creaky fold-out lawn chair, my eyes scanned the fields for any disturbance. That night I found myself contemplating the dark blue and purple hues of the sky, mirroring the wildflowers adorning the field edges. The hours crawled by in the unhurried rhythm known only to country dwellers. Amidst the icy silence, the rustling leaves assumed a louder presence, yet the anticipated mischief failed to materialize. Around 2 a.m, exhaustion overcame me, and I succumbed to sleep. A peculiar light jolted me awake, and I initially thought I had slept through the night. However, the surreal glow bathing the fields suggested otherwise. It wasn't the morning sunlight, but an otherworldly radiance that greeted me. As I searched for the source, I was astounded at how I had overlooked something colossal right in front of me. Hovering above the field was an enormous craft, saucer-shaped and spanning the entire width. Its surface glistened under muted silver lights and maintaining an eerie silence. No discernible engine noise or any sound that could explain its levitation reached my ears. I rubbed my eyes, questioning whether drowsiness played tricks on my perception yet. I was starkly awake, confronted with an unimaginable reality. My heart pounded as I observed the craft executing slow, physics-defying maneuvers in the midnight sky. Deciphering its purpose proved akin to solving an incomplete puzzle. Was it observing or studying us? The longer it lingered ominously, the more my understanding dwindled. Finally breaking the countryside silence, a low hum resonated, resembling an electronic buzz that lingered long after it ceased. It felt like a communication, connecting with someone or something nearby. Abruptly, as if plucked from reality, the craft shot off into the night sky, leaving behind a whirl of bright blue light before vanishing. Alone in my field, surrounded by scarecrow silhouettes, I struggled to shake off the eerie sensation. Sleep abandoned me, replaced by paranoia and fear. Many nights were spent scanning the sky and anticipating the unworldly light show. My wife brewed endless cups of chamomile in hopes of calming my restless mind. Those I shared my experience with dismissed me as delusional. Occasionally, I attempted to convince myself it was a mere dream born from a sleepless night. However, the image of the hovering saucer persisted every time I closed my eyes. I knew it wasn't a mere dream or a product of imagination. There exists something beyond our comprehension, sharing our universe, whether we acknowledge it or not. Within our circle of friends, there's this tradition where each birthday person gets to choose a thrilling activity for the group. It could be anything from cave exploring to skydiving, but boring stuff is off the table. So, to mark my 25th birthday, I decided to take my pals on a midnight adventure to an abandoned asylum in New York State. I've always been into haunted houses and spooky stuff, so I figured why not try the real deal? The asylum was this massive old building from the early 20th century, all worn marble, rusty metal, and peeling paint. It had a history that gave you shivers. Most of my friends thought it was a strange idea, but they went along with it because, well, it was my birthday. Tim, one of my buddies, was the most skeptical, but he was always up for supporting the group. Armed with flashlights, GoPros, and a case of beer, we embarked on our adventure, reaching the asylum around midnight. Maybe it was the stories we'd heard about the place, or maybe it was just the imposing structure under the moonlight. But we all felt a sense of unease creeping up on us as we approached. Inside, it was like stepping into a different world. The ceilings were falling apart, plaster scattered across the floor. Wallpaper peeled off in long strips, revealing damp brick underneath. We walked through the dusty halls, our footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. Despite our initial unease, the thrill of exploring such a place soon took over. It wasn't long before things started to get interesting. In one room, we found a desk with a decaying ledger from the 1930s. It detailed the patients, their treatments, and their conditions. It was like the place had been abandoned in a hurry, leaving everything behind to rot. Among the entries, we stumbled upon one about a guy named Harry Pemberley. He had acute psychosis, with notes about his obsession with fire and violent tendencies. The last entry mentioned his tragic death in the boiler room. We exchanged wide-eyed glances, Despite the eerie atmosphere, we pressed on. Down in the basement, we found a door labeled Boiler Room. It was slightly open, with a foul smell seeping out, hinting at something sinister. We hesitated, but curiosity got the better of us. As we descended the rusty steps, the feeling of being watched intensified. Suddenly, Kevin let out a yelp, claiming to feel a cold breeze. None of us felt it, adding to the growing tension. Then we heard a strange sound like the rustling of paper. And then, out of nowhere, a thick fog enveloped us and a shadowy figure emerged. It took the shape of a man wearing an old asylum uniform. His eyes seemed empty and his face pale. We watched in horror as he reenacted his final moments, reaching out to an imaginary furnace before recoiling in pain. It dawned on us that we were witnessing Harry's ghost, trapped in a loop of his own death. A mix of fear and empathy washed over us as the apparition faded away. Connor broke the silence, urging us to leave. With shaky legs, we made our way out of the asylum, not stopping until we reached the safety of a nearby pub. As we sat in a corner booth sipping our beers, we couldn't shake off the experience. The thought of Harry stuck in that torment haunted me. While my friends wanted to forget about it, I felt compelled to help him find peace. I knew I had to go back to the asylum to dig deeper into its mysteries and hopefully find a way to free Harry's soul from its eternal agony.